Stop hunting. Start finding. Choose the AT&T Real Yellow Pages with complete ads and up-to-date local listings to find just what you need.
My universe is everything I imagine. I want to be a graphic designer. How can I get there? The Academy. It fits my busy lifestyle, and I can learn firsthand from instructors who've been there and know what it takes. Hey, my destiny is a career doing what I love, my way. My choice, my school. The International Academy of Design and Technology.
You imagine? We can get you there. Call 1-800-932-2900. 1-800-932-2900.
It's 4 o'clock. You want to dial in?
Yeah, you know, these calls would go a lot better if we had an office.
This is our office.
This is your daughter's dorm room, Bob.
Listen, we have internet, telephone,
dorm
lounge. It's all free.
You could just do business at FedEx office. They've got Wi-Fi, workstations. A lot of them are open 24/7. It'll still save us an overhead.
Hey, baby. Here, give me sugar. Got a room.
Technically, this is her room.
Hello, we're on.
We understand. You want less overhead. FedEx office.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every week on Bright House Cable, Channel 49, Tuesday nights, 9:30 p.m. Don't miss us. And every week we bring you the Hispanic community's leading personalities and elected officials that you want to know about. Today I am talking to Homan Machuca. Homan Machuca is one of the Hispanic community's top reporters, if not the top reporter, in the Spanish language, covering all the issues of Central Florida that concern Hispanics. And he works with Telemundo. Homan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Muy bien, todo bien, gracias a Dios.
Good. Homan, everybody in the Hispanic community knows you. There's nobody in the Hispanic community that doesn't know
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, I know about that. Everywhere I go, you know, everybody knows you. But people in the non-Hispanic community don't know you because obviously they don't watch Spanish TV.
Absolutely.
And right now you're addressing kind of the bilingual community. How did you get started in the business?
I started when I was 16 years old, working in a small radio station in Colombia. I was doing stuff like recording and doing radio announcers. And then I become a journalist. I get out from one of the universities in Bogota, Colombia, the Universidad América. And then start working in a small radio station. Then I work in a big network.
And that was all over there in Bogota, Colombia?
That was in Bogota, Colombia.
How did you get to the point of leaving Bogota? How did you come to the United States?
I left Bogota, Colombia because of a lot of persecution, a lot of violence, and persecution against journalists.
What year was that?
That was 1983.
Okay.
1983, my wife and my 3 kids came to the United States. And my wife, she's from Pennsylvania, and I was working in Colombia as a journalist, and decided to come to the United States to see what was the opportunity in this country.
Who was creating, you know, we've seen so many times countries that have those problems and issues where you don't have freedom of the press or you have very restricted press. For people like you, that's you know, a terrible thing because you bring the message of truth to the people. I know that you are a person who is a good journalist. I've experienced that journalism and that reporting from you. So I guess that could have been a very, very stifling, heavy feeling for you.
Yeah, the situation in Colombia is not because of restricted press. The situation in Colombia is because at that time that's what a lot of narco traffic.
Okay.
And a lot of situation, drugs. Yeah. And when you become a journalist in that environment, that is sometimes really dangerous because you have to go against that situation.
You know, I remember I had a friend of mine called, I believe his name was Manuel de Dios from El Diario La Prensa in New York. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I remember.
Did you remember him?
Yes.
And what happened to him?
Absolutely.
Yeah. He was, I remember that he was shot. He came out with a series of articles back then. I don't know, it had to be back in the late 80s or something, and exposing a lot of the narcotic situations as a reporter. And he was the lead reporter or editor of La Prensa newspaper in New York at that time. I was living in New York at the time. I was very active in the Hispanic community. And I knew him very well. You know, I knew all the people at La Prensa very well, El Diario La Prensa. And I was very active up there. And it was a shock to me that when I heard the next day, they said, "Did you hear that Manuel de Dios was murdered on Jackson Heights in a Spanish neighborhood while he was eating dinner in a restaurant?" And somebody just walked up to him and shot him to death.
Absolutely. That's the story of a lot of journalists around in Latin America. That right now, the situation also is in Mexico, where they're killing some journalists over there too.
Well, they're killing a lot of people in Mexico because of the war that's going on.
Absolutely.
But I would say that journalists are a major target, So when you left Bogota, then how did you get started here?
I started in a small radio station, del 1270 in La Mágica. I don't know if you remember La Mágica in 1983. I was doing some news over there at the noon news, and then in the afternoon. Then I became to Telemundo, a small television station that became here in Orlando the first TV station in our area at that time.
Right.
Then I moved to Univision, Channel 63. I worked for around 7 years. And then I went to Telemundo. That's the station that I was working. Yes.
Okay.
But at that time, the Telemundo station was not the Telemundo station that we have today. That was a different station.
Yeah. I know that they transferred ownership and they really didn't have a studio at all when in the beginning.
Oh yeah, the beginning was really, really what we say prehistoric.
Yeah, when it comes
television,
when it comes to broadcasting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you don't miss Bogota when you first came over here? Did you have did you come directly into Central Florida?
I came directly to Central Florida, but before I broadcast from Washington, the elections, I went to different countries, broadcasting to different stations. I worked for also CBS station here in CBS Network in United States. I worked also for United Press International. That was at that time a big news organization. Now they become one of the agencies that disappear because of the situation that another agencies took the place, like Associated Press, France Press, and another agencies took the lead in the United States.
I know that now Telemundo is making great strides in the Hispanic community is growing here substantially. I remember when everybody from the Caribbean used to go to the United States, they used to go to New York. Now, a lot of people are not going to New York, they're coming into Central Florida, and the people in New York are coming down to Central Florida. So there's really an explosion going on of the Hispanic population, which is really why, you have your job and I have my job.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people coming from New York and living in Central Florida. Living in Central Florida is have a good life sometimes if you don't have enough money to live in this area, because you don't need too much to live in Central Florida. Like in New York, you need a lot of money to live there. That's the reason some people don't get a lot of money when they come here to Central Florida. The salaries here in Central Florida, unfortunately, are so low compared to New York. When they have a high life, the rent is less, the mortgages, the food, everything is less.
Even before the real estate crash.
Yeah.
The houses here cost a third of what they cost in New York.
Absolutely, but you can compare the life in New York compared to Central Florida. Which one you think is you live better? I think you live here better sometimes in Central Florida with less, with a lot of money in New York.
Yeah, well, New York has something you can't. The food. You have a lot of restaurants like that, a lot of Spanish restaurants, So that's one.
A lot of pizza?
Yeah, there's a lot of food in Central Florida, a lot of restaurants to choose from. Here, there's not that much restaurants yet. We don't have that kind of selection yet. But we're getting there, But the quality of life, it all depends on your age, too. Because
Absolutely.
If you're very young, you'd rather be in New York.
Absolutely.
As you get more mature and you have a family, and, you'd rather have a lifestyle that's more controllable and easier. So Central Florida does afford that. So you're married. You have a couple of kids.
I have 3 kids. Okay. I have 2 daughters and 1 son.
Okay.
My oldest daughter, she is president of a company called Lending a Hand. It's helping people with disabilities. I have a son, he do construction, and my youngest daughter, she's still at the university.
Okay, that's very interesting. I wanted to talk to you about, and with Nicole, about your daughter's company that helps people with disabilities, because we do a disability program.
Okay.
Hispanic Achievers just did a conference in New York at the Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan for people with disabilities to place them in major corporations and jobs. And also we had seminar programs. So I'd like to talk to you about that.
Absolutely.
So what do you think of journalism in Central Florida as compared to major cities? Now, Central Florida is market number 30 or 32 when you look at the demographics. In New York, of course, you know, it's a much more complicated situation. Do you think that journalists in Central Florida are really free to say what they want to say? I'm not talking about you, because I know you say what you want to say. But I'm talking about in general.
In general, sometimes the director of the stations have some policies of the journalism, and sometimes you have to go accordingly to the situation. But in the Hispanic community, in the Hispanic journalism, I think it's more freedom because you can express whatever you want. We have like a 4 or 6 radio stations here in Central Florida, and you can, in the morning, move the dial from one place to another, and the people expressing themselves whatever they want to say, and there is not nobody that put any restriction on whatever you say. So I think it's freedom in Central Florida. What do you think?
Well, I think that sometimes when you have a corporate, major corporation, they have editorial policies.
Absolutely, editorial policies.
In the Hispanic community, we have a lot of independent journalists that buy their own airtime. You know, they like Magda, right, for example.
Magda Yvette.
Magda Yvette is, I believe, on 1580. And she has her own airtime, so she says she's very candid.
Oh yeah, she's very bright.
Yeah, she's very candid, very direct on the presentation of issues, and she gets the audience involved. So I know that she controls her own airtime, but I think that sometimes when you have corporations involved, you have to be considerate of where the paycheck is coming from.
The Central Florida needs to grow in that aspect, because we don't have big corporations sponsor the radio programs in Central Florida, you know? Yeah. We need people that come and sponsor the program, so the radio station will have more active people and more professional people in front of the mic. Not that right now we don't have our professional people in our radio stations, but if you had money to pay these people, you will bring big talents also to Central Florida.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that, and when I got here in '96, it was a lot less mature. You know, it was the only radio station in Spanish was 1030, and that was the only station. It was a music station at that time. And as you went forward, then maybe 5 years later, the first FM, Spanish FM, opened up. And then 1030 went to talk radio, and then I think it was La Mega. La
Mega, we have now
Rumba.
1190, a radio station that I work with. It's ESPN radio. And I do a radio program in the morning between 6 and 9 called Llegó la Hora Radio. And we also talk a lot about what is going on in Central Florida with Tico Perez, Rafael Botero, and myself.
Yeah. I know Tico real well.
Yeah.
I know what you guys are doing over there. I was a guest on one of your shows.
Absolutely, I remember that.
You know, and you guys are doing a great job. Well, listen, Homan, we're a little running out of time on the segment. It's great having you here. By the way,
thank you.
He's on Univision almost
on
every
Telemundo.
day. He is on Telemundo, excuse me, and he was with Univision. So this is Danny Ramos. Thank you, Homan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your invitation.
Travel to Spain or Orlando Avenue. The finest restaurant featuring cuisine from Spain is open for business, lunch, and pleasure. El Bodegón, our very own 4-star restaurant, is open for business lunch and dinner. This is a true gem when it comes to real Spanish cuisine, featuring dishes like paella. El Bodegón also has a great wine selection. Enjoy a 4-star cuisine from Spain today for lunch or dinner at El Bodegón.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome back to Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. on Bright House Cable. This show brings you Hispanic leaders, politicians, congressmen to talk about how what they do affects the Hispanic community in Central Florida at large. My co-host for the show is Nicole Alvarez. She also is the director of an event, an organization, a program called CAD, C-A-A-I-D. And you can find that on the internet with the www.caaid.us. So we're going to cover some things about the Hispanic Achiever Organization because right now it's very timely to discuss what we've been doing. Nicole.
How are you doing today, Danny?
I'm doing good with a lot of exciting stuff going on.
It's kind of weird. I'm interviewing you today.
I don't know. I don't think that's weird. That's kind of fun. Okay?
I haven't done that in a long time.
I can definitely handle that. Good.
Well, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
I know that the Hispanic license plate, the first Hispanic license plate in Florida just passed because of this gentleman. The country. Because of this gentleman right here. Please tell everybody about this.
Okay. You want to bring up the plate?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is a mock-up of what has gone to the Department of Motor Vehicles, the artwork. There's been a minor change on this plate. By the way, this is an actual plate which Hispanics in the state of Florida will be able to put on their cars when they register their vehicles starting next January. What it signifies, and the most interesting part about the plate is colorful, but in the center of the plate will be a ship which represents the explorers that came to Florida in 1513. So the plate will say Hispanic Achievers on it, state of Florida, since 1513. And I think that's the major significance of what we were trying to convey on this particular plate. And that is that Hispanics have been in Florida nearly 200 years before George Washington had the Declaration of Independence.
I don't think a lot of people know this.
A lot of people don't know that.
I really don't.
And what they really think is that most Hispanics, because of the mass media that's going on right now, they get the impression that most Hispanics are recent migrants and immigrants coming from Mexico.
Which they're not.
Which they're not. Hispanics have been here for nearly 400 years. And that's evident, Nicole, by the fact that the word Florida is a Spanish word. Hispanics named the state of Florida, Florida, which means flower.
Florida.
Florida. And not only that, but Hispanics were also responsible for bringing the citrus industry, which is the second largest citrus industry in the world, was brought here and started by Hispanics. And you also know that St. Augustine, which is the oldest city in the United States, was founded and built by Hispanics. And many people at large don't even know that Hispanics actually were the ones who settled Florida so that later on, when the United States became the United States, and they annexed Florida, and I believe it was in 1817, there was already cities built all over the state of Florida by Hispanics. So it's due time that the Hispanic community does get the recognition for what it provided during their time and their founding of St. Augustine and a lot of other cities.
Right.
You know, and you can go down and you see names of Las Olas. I just came from Miami.
Right.
Las Olas. You know, that's Spanish too. So we've made a great impact, but most of the people don't realize what that impact was. But it wasn't easy getting this plate done, I'll tell you that.
I know it wasn't easy.
Yeah,
I watched it happen.
Yeah, we had a lot of issues. One of the major issues in getting this plate done was the fact that Hispanics are very concentrated in specific parts of the state. They are concentrated in Broward County, Dade County, Osceola County, Orange County. So those four counties carry more than 60–70% of the Hispanics in the state. There are virtually no Hispanics in other parts of the state. Mm-hmm. Now here's where the problem arose. When I went to apply for the plate, I put in the application. The state required that you had to go through a survey process for the organization to get a plate. You have to be a nonprofit organization, which we are. That survey process, which was mandated by the state of Florida, required you to do this survey in every single county in the state and then get a positive response from people to buy the plate.
Which
every county.
They weren't making other people do, though, correct?
Well, theoretically they were supposed to. But the problem arose was that the phone calls that were made on the survey had to be random phone calls. Now, there are counties in the state of Florida, many counties, 30 counties, that don't have virtually any Hispanics. Right. So if we were calling households at random, we wouldn't get a Hispanic person on the phone, right. And then they would say, no, I don't want to buy a Hispanic plate. So the survey process was required by law, was tainted against Hispanics getting a plate.
Right.
Well, you know, we were out of the box. We weren't going to get a plate based upon the survey process. And then we had a couple of the survey companies refusing to do the survey simply because they knew the survey was going to fail and they didn't want to be associated with a failure. So we had to go through a legal process to convince the state to actually change the laws and the regulations that govern plates, which means that we had to take a little bit of a legal position against the state of Florida in order to get them to see that their process was discriminatory against Hispanics. We were very lucky. Department of Motor Vehicles, after many discussions with legal people in the legal profession, agreed with us. And of course, finally, after 2.5 years of fighting, it finally went to the state legislature. It went to the House of Representatives and it went to the Senate. Gary Sipling, who's a black senator here in Central Florida, actually wrote the bill, and he was the person who introduced the Hispanic plate into the Senate for a vote, which was fantastic. He had it halfway. He needed the House of Representatives to support the plate. So in the last part of the session, the last 2 weeks of the session, Dean Cannon, who is also a Central Floridian, and he's also Speaker of the House of Representatives, and he's a state rep in Central Florida.
Right.
Dean Cannon picked up the ball and ran with it in the House of Representatives, and he secured the support for the Hispanic plate. So there are really a bunch of people that can take credit for this. There was myself, the founder, and I came up with the idea. Then there was Gary Sipling, which we couldn't have done it without him because he brought the plate into the Senate. There was Dean Cannon, who brought the plate and into the House of Representatives. And of course, there's my friend Jay Rosario. And Jay was the person that I originally went with for the idea. Jay is a local businessman here, a young guy, at least younger than I am, a lot younger than I am. And he just said, yes, I'll do it. I want to do it. And he actually put up the financial backing, which was substantial in order to get this plate, because there were fees required by the state. Right. There was all kinds of money that had to be invested to go through the governmental processes. And he, who was the owner of Celebrity, Jay Rosario, was the owner of Celebrity Nissan. And he loved the idea, and he said, count me in, I want to support this. And Jay, without any of these people, but it was me, then Jay gave me the backup, and then of course Gary Sipling, and then Dean Cannon, and then we also got Efrain Bovo, who is from Miami, who is the chairman of the Spanish caucus in the House of Representatives. He was involved. Locally here, Gardner, he's an elected official here, Gardner, and Glorioso were also behind it. So getting this thing done was not an easy thing. It was very complicated. It took, like I mentioned, 2.5 years to get it done, but now finally it passed the House. The governor, whose signature is right here, it says, thank you, and then Governor Christ, he signed it into law, and now the Hispanic community here in Central Florida has the first Hispanic plate in the United States, which is really interesting considering Texas, considering New Mexico, considering California. So we really pulled a coup to get this thing done.
When all the controversial comments were going on the comment portion of the website, I believe it was the Sentinel.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when all of this was going on?
Well,
when all of these positive and negative comments were going on, you know, which we all read.
Yeah, I know. and you helped me respond.
Yes, I did.
I was in total battle mode at the time because I knew that this thing had to be done, and we only had a week to go, and it would either live or die forever. If this plate did not go through, when it did in this last session, it would never have gone through.
Right.
We went through the process of actually changing state regulations and laws to get that plate through. So it was a horrendous process, and it was a civil rights issue for Hispanics.
What was the most controversial thing that happened in trying to get this plate plat?
We sued the state of Florida.
What happened when you sued the state of Florida?
Well, what happened was that we took issue with the fact that the process, and it wasn't done intentionally. I don't want anybody to think that the state of Florida did this intentionally. What it was these regulations were done a long time ago, and they didn't take into consideration the changing demographics of the state of Florida. They didn't take into consideration that there are groups that cluster, like Hispanics and like other groups. They cluster into certain areas.
Right.
And so it wasn't intentional. But we had to bring it to the point of saying, okay, you work for an organization like the state, you don't have the power to change the regulations. So it's my job to kind of force the issue. And we forced the issue so that those things would be changed.
One quick thing before we change subject. A lot of people, it was commented on the website, everybody, I'm sorry, not everybody, that's the wrong way to say. A lot of people kept commenting they don't want these words on their license plate. Now, although I found it rather hilarious, some people actually really don't know this and this, the uni, dos, actually are supposed to represent your numbers and letters that go on your license plate. Just in case you were wondering, this is his plate.
My plate is going to say unidos, which means
not everybody says this. This is just an example. We got a lot of comments.
So someone might go up and they might go and say, and it might have number 1 or number 67584. You know,
ABC 1 2 3. Whatever the case is on your tag.
Now, they can order a custom plate, and like I'm going to do, and mine says UNIDOS. They can say Jeff, JEF, and then So you.
But just to clarify, a lot of people think, well, the people who were commenting on the website, that it's going to say Unidos, and it's not going to say Unidos. It's going to say,
well, you know what?
Your
we're
numbers.
Just running out of time.
We are running out of time.
Go to our website, www.hispanicachievers.org, and you can follow the progress of the plate. We'll see you next week. This is Danny Ramos and Nicole
Alvarez.
And good night.
My universe is everything I imagine. I want to be a graphic designer. How can I get there? The Academy. It fits my busy lifestyle, and I can learn firsthand from instructors who've been there and know what it takes. Hey, my destiny is a career doing what I love, my way. My choice, my school. The International Academy of Design and Technology.
You imagine? We can get you there. Call 1-800-932-2900. 1-800-932-2900.